The Chicago Bears have themselves a new general manager. We have just hired Ryan Poles from the Kansas City Chiefs, executive director of player personnel for the Chiefs. He's now going to be the next general manager of our Chicago Bears. What's going on, guys? I'm back with the Chicago Bears all-season update videos, which is going to be a lot of these in the coming weeks. You know, going over the head coaching search, everything else going on with the Bears, a lot of changes happening. So if you guys want the latest updates on the Bears all season, definitely be sure to subscribe to this channel. I didn't have many videos out in the last week because there wasn't much going on besides speculation, but now we finally have something concrete. We finally hired somebody, and his name is Ryan Poles. So similar to our last general manager in terms of his name, which is pretty funny, guys. Ryan Pace to Ryan Poles. Like, what are the odds we hire somebody with the same exact first name, the same last name initial, you know, pretty much the same letters in the last name too? That has nothing to do with this, obviously. Like, nobody cares what his name is, but I just thought that was pretty funny. But if you ask me what I think about this move, if you ask other people in the NFL what they think about this move, if you ask the media what they think about this move, virtually everybody thinks this is a home run hire for the Chicago Bears. Now, granted, guys, we're not going to actually know if he was a good hire for at least 4 to 5 years. We're going to have to wait and see who he drafts the next couple of years, what the free agent signings are, how he develops this roster, how he manages the cap, how the team progresses, how many games are winning. Like, that's going to take a couple years to actually judge him and look at what he did. But right now, guys, at least on paper, a lot of people are loving this move, including me, okay? And the reason for this, guys, is that he's coming from a very successful organization where a lot of people in the NFL have a lot of good things to say about him, and also a lot of teams wanted him pretty badly this offseason, okay? He's had 4 interviews with different teams around the NFL in the last 12 months for their open GM spot, and he's been a finalist every single one of those times, with the Panthers, with the Giants, with the Vikings, and obviously with the Chicago Bears. And something of note, guys, is that he had the choice between the Vikings and the Bears, okay? Wherever he wanted to go, he pretty much had that choice because the Vikings wanted him pretty badly. Their fan base wanted him pretty badly as well, guys. I saw on Twitter, I saw on social media, a lot of Vikings fans were clamoring for this guy, thinking that, oh, he's definitely going to go to the Vikings, right? Because we're a much better place, a much better situation than the Bears are. But they were wrong because Ryan Poles chose the Chicago Bears. He showed up at O'Hare last night. People on Twitter captured a video of him walking with George McCaskey picking him up. And, you know, after that, the hire was pretty much official, guys. He is now the next general manager of the Chicago Bears. Now, let me tell you guys a little bit more about Ryan Poles, his background, where he worked, his experience, and how he rose to where he is today, okay, as the next general manager of the Chicago Bears. So first of all, guys, he's 36 years old. So yes, he is pretty young. I know a lot of people are going to be against that because obviously the last time we hired a young GM, Ryan Pace, it didn't work out really well. But you guys have to remember, a lot of GMs now in the NFL are really, really young. The Vikings hired a GM today that's only 32 years old. Andrew Berry of the Cleveland Browns, he's only I believe 33, 34 years old. So a lot of young GMs are getting hired now. A lot of them are having success as well, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. We're getting a younger, more forward-thinking mind. Okay, yes, experience does matter, but so does new viewpoints, okay, new modern approaches, and that could potentially be a good thing for the Chicago Bears. But looking at his resume, guys, he's been with the Chiefs practically his whole career, but he's been under, you know, a lot of different general managers with the Chiefs. So I know people have the, you know, another concern about him only being in one organization, kind of like how Ryan Pace was, but he worked under multiple different general managers that all had their different approaches. Okay, Pioli, Dorsey, and Veach, 3 really different guys, 3 really different methods of building a roster. So clearly he's had experience in working with different guys, in, you know, handling different viewpoints, and he's moved up the ladder every single year under these new general managers. So clearly that says a lot about his ability to really contribute to that organization, to the Chiefs, that they wanted to keep him, even though the GMs were changing. So if you look at his year-by-year resume then with the Kansas City Chiefs, he's been there for a really long time, ever since 2009. He was a scouting assistant there, 2009 to 2010. Then he got promoted to college scouting coordinator, 2010 to 2016. Then he got promoted again to director of college scouting from 2016 to 2018, which is pretty important because he was part of the team that helped draft Patrick Mahomes. Okay, he had a, you know, team that went over there to scout Patrick Mahomes, and that was their guy. And obviously that was one of the best picks in NFL history to get a quarterback of that talent level by trading up for him in the draft. So obviously he had a lot of success there. Then he got promoted again to assistant director of player personnel 2018 to 2021. Then he did a good job there and got promoted again to executive director of player personnel 2021 to present. And then obviously now he got hired as the next general manager of the Chicago Bears. So a pretty, I would say, quick rise throughout the organization because of all the success he's had, guys. Okay, if you look at all the players the Chiefs have acquired, with him in the organization, it's been a lot of really damn good players. There's a reason why the Chiefs have been in Super Bowl contention every year since they drafted Mahomes. And even before Mahomes, guys, they still had a lot of success. Okay, ever since 2010, they've been to the playoffs 9 times. Okay, 9 times in the last decade, they have been to the NFL playoffs. In comparison, the Bears have only been to the playoffs 2 times in the last decade, which is pretty pathetic. Okay, and obviously if you look at the Chiefs, there are, again, probably the Super Bowl favorites now this year. They're likely going to win it all again because they have such a great roster around Patrick Mahomes, great coach obviously as well, a defense that's just good enough to win. So a lot of great players have been acquired while he's been with the organization. Obviously we're never going to know how much individual sway he had in any individual decision because that info is not available to the public. But if he's been here for so long and the team still continues having success with him, like that's the one constant, then obviously he has to have some direct impact on that success. If you look at all the players the Chiefs have acquired or drafted in the last 10 years, guys like Rodney Hudson, Justin Houston, Dontari Poe, Eric Fisher, Travis Kelce, Dee Ford, Marcus Peters, Chris Jones, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, the list goes on and on. The Chiefs have had one of the more talented rosters in the last decade, okay? And obviously Patrick Mahomes was the guy to push them over the top, but the talent has always been there with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think it makes a lot of sense to hire a guy in Ryan Poles from an organization like this, an organization that's been to the Super Bowl multiple times, that's probably going to be in contention for a very long time, a winning organization full of, different thinking people, different minds, but, an organization that knows what they're doing, obviously, and has a modern approach to the NFL as well, guys, which I feel like is the most important thing. The Kansas City Chiefs focus a lot on the offensive side of the football in terms of their cap space, in terms of their draft picks as well, and the Bears badly need a guy like that. This franchise has always been defensive minded, okay? Guys like Ryan Pace, they were defensive minded people. Ryan Pace spent most of his cap space on the defense, a lot of his draft picks as well, but I guarantee you guys, Ryan Poles is not going to be like that, okay? The Chiefs have had a lot of success on the offensive side of the football. He has an eye for offensive talent in the playmaker department, but also on the offensive line, most importantly, because he was a former offensive lineman. He was actually a member of the Bears on the practice squad a long time ago, so he definitely knows offensive linemen, knows how to get good ones, because even this year, guys, as he's had more control of the roster now in terms of, drafting and also trading and signing for players, he helped the Chiefs completely redo their entire O-line in one season, and they've, acquired a lot of great players on that O-line only in 1 year. If you remember last year in the Super Bowl, the main reason why the Chiefs did not win the Super Bowl is because their starting 2 tackles went out with injury, and their interior offensive line also was not the best in the playoffs. So the Chiefs made it a point of emphasis to build up this offensive line and give Patrick Mahomes the best possible offensive line going into next season, which is exactly what they did, okay? They acquired Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith in the draft, some of the best value picks in that draft. Creed Humphrey is currently the best center in all of football, okay? So probably the biggest steal in the entire draft. They traded for Orlando Brown Jr. From the Baltimore Ravens, who's been pretty good for them. They signed Joe Thuney as well, the guard. So building up an entire offensive line again in just one season is really, really impressive. And God knows the Bears need that for their franchise as well. We haven't had a good offensive line in the city for a really long time, and hopefully Ryan Poles can get that now for our team. And one last thing about this guy also is that it feels like he's going to be much more direct with George McCaskey and probably much more demanding in terms of letting him have control of the organization. According to Jeff Hughes of the Bears blog, which this guy has been getting practically everything right regarding this hiring cycle, he's been getting all this news way before Adam Schefter and everybody, so clearly he has some source within the Bears, and he's been saying that Ryan Poles demanded being able to choose his own head coach before he got this Bears job, okay? He wants his own list of head coaching candidates. He doesn't want to only go off the list that George McCaskey came up with, which is obviously a very good thing for the Chicago Bears. The last thing that we needed was George McCaskey picking our next head coach, because we all know he knows next to nothing about football. So it seems like he's going to be much more upfront with the McCaskeys than Ryan Pace was, which again is a really good thing for the Bears organization. We need a guy that's going to go in here and mold our team into being what it has to be a winning team. Okay, he's going to confront the hard truths. He's going to tell the McCaskeys exactly what's wrong with the organization according to reports, which is just such a refreshing thing to hear, okay, because we badly needed a guy like this. So on paper, guys, surface level, I think this is a very good hire for the Chicago Bears. I'm really excited about this to see what he's going to do in the draft and free agency, in the coaching search as well, because a lot of smart people are really high on this guy. When your peers speak so highly on you around the entire NFL, he's also named to the top, I think 40, under 40 or something like that, of executives in the NFL. So a lot of respect in the NFL for this guy. I think it could be, finally maybe the right hire for the Chicago Bears. Again, we won't know until a few years pass, but as of now, I'm pretty damn optimistic. So the Ryan Poles era has officially begun. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you think about this hire? Who do you want to be the head coach now? There's a ton of options we could potentially choose from. Welcome to Chicago, Ryan Poles. As always, bear down.